And thank you very much for making a date. Welcome back to the marketplace. Now, most commercial banks would want to depend on their income surplus in meeting the new capital requirement. This was highlighted in the 2018 PricewaterhouseCoopers Ghana Banking Survey released by the PricewaterhouseCoopers. Let's have the details in this report.
The survey engaged banking chiefs, risk officers and strategy heads of these banks over a year through interview and questionnaires and elicited views on how the minimum capital requirement is likely to impact on the investment of banks. In all, about 17 commercial banks were surveyed. Majority of the respondents were of the view that turning to their income surpluses might be the best way out in helping them meet the new capital requirement. This was followed by the sale of shares to new investors. The banks also preferred or relying on reserves for fresh capital injection. They were also of the view that fresh capital from new investors as a more realistic option compared to rights issues. The commercial banks also saw that the single obligor limits for banks could also be increased very soon, which would go a long way to improve the amount of businesses the banks can handle, as well as improve funding for private businesses. However, some of the banks were also of the view that increase in the capital would not obviously lead to strong growth in profits. On improving market presence after capitalization, the survey showed that branch expansion would be critical in growing their banks as well as expanding into new areas. Majority of banking chiefs surveyed promised to give more attention to board evaluation and will become a priority for most of them, while board qualification and composition would be evaluated. The 2018 Ghana Banking Survey also showed that Barclays, Standard Chartered Bank, Stanbic Bank, Ecobank, Zenith Bank and Fidelity Bank has been in the top league of the biggest banks in the country. These banks held almost 60% of the total 61 billion industry deposits. Ecobank had the biggest share of industry lending, followed by Barclays Bank.
All right, so in-house analyst Philip Namfuri has just joined me here to help explain why income surplus is the most preferred choice for commercial banks. Now, Philip, why is this so?
Well, if you look at what the Bank of Ghana's directive was on raising minimum capital requirements or raising the funds to meet the minimum capital requirements, they gave you two options, or let's say three options. Either you are going to use your income surplus, which is funds you have retained from your profit-making activity. So over the course of your financial years, if you made some profit, you set some aside. That's what we call income surplus. Okay. Either you do that or you look for fresh capital, or you look for a combination of both. And now from the report, looking for fresh capital will mean a rights issue, which is raising money from your existing shareholders, or looking for fresh investors, which means going to bring new people on board. And doing these two, rights issue and looking for fresh investors, is a bit lengthy than taking money from your own funds, which you've saved over a number of years, and just what we call capitalizing it into capital. You understand? So that's
in other words, banks which did not make any profits under the period, would not want to or cannot apply or adopt this particular option except to use the other methods.
Yes, I mean, if you look at it from that angle, if a bank over the course of the period hasn't been making profits, then it will have to look to other options, and those other options will be the rights issue, looking for fresh investors, or merging with another entity, or being acquired by another entity. But if you look at the report, merging and acquisitions, or mergers and acquisitions, was also the least preferred method by the banks, because that one comes with a lot of costs involved. And if you look at financial literature, over 50% of mergers and acquisitions failed to achieve synergy. And by synergy, I mean when these two institutions come together, is it going to be a perfect fit between the two? And sometimes it doesn't really achieve that purpose. So most of them don't want to go in that direction.
And what exactly is the report saying about mergers and acquisitions for banks?
Well, it's a survey of bank executives. So it's the responses from bank executives. And they are saying that this is the least preferred method. And it's of the bank executives surveyed, 16% said they would move for a merger or acquisition, as compared to 24% who said they will use the income surplus as a means of raising new capital.
And what ranking did rights issue fall?
Rights issue came second as the most preferred method. So it was appropriation of income surplus, or converting your income surplus to capital. Then rights issue came, then sale of shares to new investors, then capital injection from a parent company, and then mergers or acquisitions with another entity.
Right. Now, what else is the report telling us?
Well, the report looked at a number of things, but what stood out for me the most was the fact that banks are saying that going forward, they are going to cut back on the physical branches, brick and mortar, and they're moving to digitization. You see now a lot of banks, you can sit here, I can send money to you, you can send money to me from my tab, from your tab, whatsoever. So banks are now going to be moving in that direction rather than using physical branches. Some of them also said because of their growth, you know, some of the new banks, they are coming up, they need a physical presence because of our market dynamics. But most of them, the big ones, EcoBank, for example, has been pushing the digitization agenda for a very long time. So that's the direction in which they are moving.
All right. Thank you very much, Philip, for that update. My colleague Philip Namfuri bringing us up to speed with the latest 2018 PricewaterhouseCoopers banking survey results. Away from that, the Advertising Association of Ghana says it will establish an advertising institute in the country within the next 2 years. According to the association, this has become necessary to harness good advertising practices. This was disclosed by the president of the association, Togbo Mensah, at the association's 6th investiture ceremony, which he was sworn in as new president.
The Advertising Association of Ghana, AAG, is the industry body and professional institute for Ghana's thriving and highly potent advertising and marketing communications business. The association was established to, among other reasons, promote public confidence in the advertising profession. Meanwhile, the sector has faced some challenges due to the entry of some unlicensed and unprofessional advertisers. It is for this reason that the AAG says it seeks to establish an institute by the year 2020. Togbo Mensah is new president of the AAG.
And my predecessor started something which ad hoc, training people on the job. You know, sometimes 1 month, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. It is time for us to upgrade that to an institution of advertising. This we all have agreed to do. And I will ensure that by the time I finish my first term of 2 years, we will start the school. And there are Ghanaians who are very experienced in advertising.
Mr. Mensah also says his outfits would make some amendments to include social media advertisement in the Advertising Standard Authority Bill, which is currently awaiting Parliament's approval.
When we started advertising many years ago, there was no social media. There was only newspaper, radio. Radio is DBC and TV, and that's it. Now social media is even more bigger. So in our deliberations now, we have a new department for social media, where because our people do it, our people do all that advertising and creative, yes. So that is going to be taken up seriously because that's the new one. That's the new, and that we are including now in that because when we send out whatever to Parliament 4 years ago, there was no social media. So there was just now it's huge. So we have just added it so that when it's approved, then there will be law and order.
Meanwhile, Business Development Minister Dr. Ibrahim Mohammed Awal has urged the association to help rebrand the country as a business location.
The only way Ghana can benefit is to tell our story, to attract investment. I therefore want to humbly use this opportunity, this platform, to challenge AAG and other organizations to help position Ghana as the most valuable brand in Africa for business.
The new Advertising Association of Ghana president, Togbo Mensah, succeeds Joel Nete. He would be deputized by Mansa Amwa Iwa.
Let's turn our attention now to the petroleum industry, and the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, is commending the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta for directing the GNPC to take immediate steps to address the issue of anomaly in crude oil pricing. This, PIAC says, will save the country from further revenue losses. This is based on a letter from the Ministry of Finance raising concerns of underpricing of crude from the Trinidad, Enyira and Tome 10 field. PIAC says it is concerned about this development because the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation is a recipient of petroleum revenues. There's more in this report.
According to the Public Interest and Accountability Committee in a statement issued to the media, it is concerned about these developments because the GNPC is a recipient of petroleum revenues and falls within the committee's oversight mandate as stipulated under Section 52 of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011. PIAC commended the Minister of Finance for directing GNPC to take immediate steps to address the anomaly in the pricing of the crude to save the country from further revenue losses. The directive, said to be contained in a memo of July 2018, responds adequately to recommendations of PIAC's 2017 annual report. The PIAC report established that in 2017, Ghana lifted 4 parcels of crude oil from the 10 field. These were in March, June, October, and December. In all the 4 cases, the sales returns reported substantial price deviations from government's benchmark price. Jubilee and Brent achieved prices. The March lifting from 10, for instance, had a negative price differential of almost $5 per barrel against Jubilee and slightly over $2 per barrel against Brent. In October, the performance of the 10 crude was worse. It suffered a negative price differential of $6 per barrel against both Jubilee and Brent. It is important to recognize that even a dollar price differential for a barrel of crude can amount to substantial losses. A dollar markdown done fraudulently can therefore lead to a loss of $1 million per lifting. PIAC, in its 2017 annual report, therefore recommended that GNPC took another look at its pricing and marketing policy for 10 crude. Given that GNPC appears to contest this view, as evident in the corporation's response to the minister's directive, PIAC strongly recommends the establishment of an independent panel of experts to review the 10 crude oil marketing policy and to settle the matter.
So let's stay on this a little further, and I've been joined in the studio by Migdad Mohammed, research analyst of the Institute of Energy Security, to also help in assessing this particular situation. You're welcome, Migdad.
Well, thank you very much for hosting me.
So my first question to you is, do you share the same thoughts as PIAC? And do you think that there's anything untoward in kind of trying to siphon state funds other than what the PRMA, that's the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, stipulates?
Yes. Well, thank you. For us at IES, we are already on the civil society platform, the think tank platform with PIAC. Okay. We deliberate on some of these ideas before eventually we even see them out there. And we agree with PIAC that there is a need for us to have a proper review of our trading agreements with our off-takers in as much as GNPC, and in the context of this discussion is concerned. We think that we could have gotten more from our revenue in terms of how GNPC priced our crude, the 10-field crude with Letasco. Because when you look at the crude from the 10 fields, they are light sweet crude. Light sweet crude means that in terms of sulfur content, we have a 0.5 lower sulfur content for crude in Ghana. You compare even our crude to Nigeria, the Kwaibo or Boni Light, we have an API gravity of 35. The higher the gravity, the quality you have. If today, as before I came here, checking the trading prices for Kwaibo is selling for $78.98 per barrel, and Brent crude standard prices is going for around $77. So it should tell you that if Kwaibo with an API gravity of 30.01 is selling for $78 per barrel, we should have even been selling ours at a premium. At a premium because it is quality fuel, it's quality crude, at a premium because in terms of sulfur content, our sulfur content ranges between 0.16 to 0.2, down below the 0.5 standard in the industry. Exactly. So we would have expected that in pricing, the GNPC practice is not illegal. In petroleum pricing terms, you have options of sales. But while the off-taker is looking at means of making profits, you, the trader, on the part of government, must also be putting in place measures to make sure you gain the best result out of the trading. If you go into a trading, and yes, it's not that we lack off-takers. We can have options in sale. But when you sell, and eventually the country is losing about $64 million from the 4 takes in 2017, for example, that is a cause for worry. So
obviously you side with PIAC's decision that the GNPC must take a second look at its pricing formula.
Yes.
All right. Now, what exactly is the situation? I mean, why is it that GNPC, is it kind of a deliberate action to price this differently as compared to, Jubilee, for instance, and maybe subsequent fields coming up?
Well, for us as now, only a proper forensic probe can establish that. We have had instances when public officials, out of genuine mistakes or lack of understanding, cause the country to lose money. And we have had instances when it can be a deliberate scheme where people will underprice. I mean, it is unimaginable that if Kwaibo is just our neighbors, they are taking a crude of an API gravity of 30 and it is going for $78 per barrel. And no matter how you want to vary it, eventually when trading, government or the people of Ghana must be the beneficiaries. So where it is established that indeed it is not because of the placement of the options was not strategic in such a way that you give the off-taker the chance to take the least price and then eventually someone takes some cut from the back. A probe can establish whether that happened or it didn't happen. But for now, we can't independently verify. All we know is that the practice of offering options for your off-taker is not an illegal practice, it's a standard practice. And from what we understand, it's even something that the previous administration also did, only that the losses at the time, based on the windows available, was not as much as we experienced in 2017 and then between January and June this year. We agree with PIAC that there should be an independent analysis. We can have an investigation with PIAC involved, representing with the energy think tanks in the industry to ensure that we look into it and that Ghana didn't just lose money because someone wanted to line his pocket and all of that.
Now, I was kind of amazed. Aren't there other checks apart from what PIAC seems to do to ensure that this pricing formula is rationalized in a way?
Well, it's not just limited to this one. When it comes to trading practices in the industry, remember the former BOST MD, Mr. Alfred Obin, was accused by our counterparts, our consumer counterparts, of some trading practices. It all happens because there's not a standard legal regime which guides the relationship between a seller and an off-taker in such transactions. So when, in that case, he gave a discount of $2 at the time that our crude was going for a premium, you can't fault him because there's no guiding rule. He just has to use his understanding of the industry to run the trade. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that PIAC reports have cited this long before. I have read it over and over again from last year. I would have thought that GMPC would have taken it into consideration and then inform its subsequent actions. So going forward, what should be done is that PIAC must not just be limited to releasing reports. The last time we had a civil society, the think tank forum, we discussed this with PIAC about how we can lift the reports of PIAC beyond just being reports which are copied to Parliament and other stakeholders to something which can be acted upon and we can get results out of it.
All right, many thanks for your time, Mikdad. Mohammed is a research analyst for the Institute of Energy Security. Let's move on to aviation now and get treated like a VIP or enjoy a limousine ride to and from the airport for free. These are part of services that will be offered at the new Kotoka International Terminal 3 building. The facility is part of a $400 million project by the Ghana Airports Company to upgrade its facilities and infrastructure across the country. The new terminal is finally ready, and our correspondent Sheila Tamaklo, ahead of its commissioning, joined Managing Director of the company on a tour of the facility. Let's enjoy.
A French person may say bienvenue, but in English it is welcome. Indeed, welcome to the gateway to West Africa. That is the new Kotoka International Airport Terminal 3. And right here we are at the departures. And as you can see behind me, these boards will help you find which aircraft you are going for and at what time it's arriving or departing from this place. The departure hall of the new terminal now holds 56 check-in counters, which will enable the processing of 1,250 passengers an hour and a total of up to 5 million passengers a year. A 700 square meter retail space and an automated luggage handling system are part of this state-of-the-art facility.
From the top, then when you get in there, you can do self-check-in without going to any check-in desk. But when you do, then we have 56 check-in desks that should facilitate customers going through there. If you look at Terminal 2, sometimes it felt so congested that different airlines, lines to different airlines were getting crossed. Now there's enough space for everybody, and we can handle about 1,250 passengers in an hour through that, through the departure lounge. Then we also have the iValidate. What it does is once you check in, you have your card, and the card will allow you access to the airside. If you haven't checked in or your plane has left, there's no way you can go through the gates to the airside. The other thing is because of the nature of the system, when it's time for the gate to close, the gate will close and nobody can check you in. The system will shut down the desk. So I think it's important for travelers to remember that when the airline gives you time for checking in, they mean that. You're not come to say, oh, I'm sorry, I was a bit late or delayed here and there. Once it shuts down, it shuts, and everybody has to go through. When you arrive at Kotoka now, you should be able to get your luggage in a very short time. It's all coming on the conveyor belt, which is handling about 3,000 bags in an hour. And that's what we have. We do not think that anybody we should not have any clutter of luggage here. People will just come in straight from the plane. You come to the immigration, go through immigration, and you should be out in no time.
Okay. So this is the, the baggage thing. So
yeah,
the
baggage handling system. They are coming pop out of there, come and go this way. And the way we've done it, the way it is aligned, it means that the luggages are going to be lined up this way horizontally, and then they're able to travel. So a lot more bags can fit on this system than we ordinarily have. If it was flat, you see, the other side they were flat, and therefore things just with a few bags the thing get filled. The system is moving.
Travelers who have transited through the existing Terminal 2 building will now experience a great difference. The new Terminal 3 now has air bridges for a smooth transit, and here's a few.
The boarding bridges. Yes. That is a real McCoy.
Yes.
And that is what a lot of people are going to be excited about. This is the boarding gate, and from here, unlike the previous time where you would have gone to an area, waited for a bus, now you just sit here and wait, and when the airline is ready, when they say they are ready, they invite everybody, and then you come through here and you board your plane.
So it goes down here.
Yeah. And as I said, so it's very user-friendly, and I think because of the way it's done, you are just descending. Yeah. Whereas in the other case, you'd have had to climb with your suitcases and carry-on bags, but now you just wheel them and you go into the aircraft.
Importantly, it brings into question the disability issues we've had sometimes about conveying disabled persons. So it means they can go through here with the wheelchairs and everything.
Yeah, they can go up to the gate, and then they go into the aircraft, and then we bring them up. The 8th gate, which is down there, is for aircraft that would have parked remotely. Those aircraft that cannot dock at the boarding bridges will park outside, and then there will be buses to convey the passengers from here to those places. And then when you arrive, you come through this tunnel. You come through the tunnel. We expect to brand all these places with our adverts so that we can make some money. And then we take you through here, so you can go through. Again, just like coming down, now you are going out, and again, it is smooth, a straight portion, and then there's an incline which allows you to smoothly descend into the upper arrival area. We believe that this puts us ahead of the game, and we should be able to take full advantage of the facility. So now you are on the upper arrival area, passport control, baggage claim, transfer, you all go this way.
To put the icing on the cake, a commercially important persons lounge facility has been added. The key objective of the CIP is to offer specialized services to passengers who want extra comfort.
Now we are saying all those who feel so important that they must be treated differently. We have a facility for you. Pay and come and use it. And so that is also there as a new lounge. We also have in that lounge office spaces where people can hold meetings at the airport.
And that's Kotoka International Airport Terminal 3 that makes traveling much easier. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. My name is Emmanuel Boaji. Have a good afternoon.